Towards the end of Scream 6, we see a quick shot of the contacts list on Sam's phone, one of which is Christy. In my Scream 2022 video, I pointed out the Easter eggs hidden in the contacts on Dewey's phone and the meaning behind Christy and the other names listed. So this is our clue to be on the lookout for references again. So let's go through her contacts. Tara is her sister, the Jenna Ortega character, but Meyer is the son of Scream 6 producer William Sherrick. The next name is Eloise. She's the daughter of William Sherrick. The next name after that is Nikki. The 5th and 6th Scream were directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who did a segment in the anthology horror film VHS where one of the characters is named Nikki. I'm not sure about River, it's too common of a word to search, but I did figure out that Eileen is Eileen Jones, the wife of Tyler Gillett. Mindy and Chad are the twins from the movie. Sydney is the main protagonist of the franchise, who isn't in this one. Jay is the film's editor, Jay Prochidney, and T-Ferg is the post-production assistant, Tyler Ferguson. I wasn't able to find a Minnie, and Rebecca could refer to several people. But that's just a taste of the level of detail that this movie's secrets have to offer. If you want to know the Scream origins of every single prop in the movie theater shrine, all of the costume references on the subway train, and info hidden in hard-to-find places, stick around to the end of this video. This video is sponsored by Factor. Welcome to Things You Missed. Just 1 year after the franchise was revived with Scream 2022, the next sequel would already be released, mirroring the quick turnaround from the original Scream in 1996 to Scream 2 in 1997. This would be our first of many clues that Scream 6 was going to be a requel of Scream 2, in the same way that the last movie was a requel of the original. For the third movie in a row, they changed the naming convention of the title. The fourth movie moved the number inside the word Scream, which was cool. Everybody likes it when I call it Screeform. It's not annoying, nobody leaves angry comments about that at all. The fifth could have gone with 5 Cream, but instead just decided to call it Scream to fit the meta of requels at the time, like Halloween and Candyman. I guess Scream 6 was trying to do the best of both worlds by doing the standalone title, but also having the number in the M on the poster, which means they had to switch to Roman numerals. It reminds me of the Jak franchise. The first game was Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy, then Jak 2 switches to Roman numerals, Jak 3 used Arabic numerals, but then the fourth one was called Jak X, but it wasn't the Roman numeral X, it was just the letter X. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Let's cut in to the things you missed. The first thing I'm going to talk about is how similar this movie is to Scream 2. While the characters do point this out themselves,
Stab 2 took place in college.
So do we think that the killer is trying to copy the movies?
it goes much deeper than you might have realized. In addition to the college setting, one of the 5 Ghostface killers in this movie, Jason, is introduced in the opening, where we find out that he's a student in a class about 20th century slashers. Just like the killer in Scream 2, Mickey is introduced in a college film class discussing the Stab movie. Both movies feature a main character who's dealing with newfound fame after surviving murders the previous year. When a new string of crimes begins, they're both given special police protection. Each has a new boyfriend who's very suspicious, but not guilty. When we're reintroduced to Tara, she's on her way to a party.
She went to the Omega Kappa Beta party.
It's the same fraternity that Derek belonged to in Scream 2. We even briefly see their coat of arms that matches the necklace that Derek gave Sydney. At the party, we learn that Tara's considering joining a sorority called Omega Beta Zeta.
You Omega Beta Zeta?
No, not yet.
Which is the same one that CC Cooper was a part of in 1997. Speaking of CC Cooper, she doesn't last long in the movie, getting stabbed and thrown off the top of that sorority house. She has a counterpart in Scream 6, Anika, who gets stabbed and tossed from the ladder she's trying to escape on. I don't know why Danny just has a huge ladder in his NYC apartment. Maybe he saw Nerve and was inspired. Tara later explains that the Core 4 moved to New York for summer semester, very similar to how Sydney and Randy moved to Ohio mid-school year to escape their own trauma in Woodsboro. While Scream 2 was set in Ohio, the college that they filmed at was in Atlanta. Atlanta is mentioned several times in Scream 6. It's the place where Jason and Greg first met in middle school, and Kirby works for the FBI's Atlanta field office. Could be a coincidence, or maybe an intentional connection. Kirby, by the way, has a scar from where Charlie stabbed her in Screeform. She gets stabbed there again at the end of Scream 6, but lives. The same way that Dewey survived in Scream 2.
Knife went into some old scar tissue. Saved his life.
The same thing seems to happen to Gale Weathers. In Screeform, she got it in the shoulder, and that's where the new Ghostface gets her again in 6, and she manages to survive. After Sam and Tara survive the first attack, Gale Weathers comes investigating, and the franchise tradition of her getting punched in the face by the victim continues. If you look at the reaction of the cameraman, it's the same look of surprise seen on the face of Joel, her camera guy in Scream 2.
Yes, I got that on film.
The reason Gale got punched was because Sam was unhappy with her portrayal in Gale's latest book.
You called me unstable and a born killer. That's taken out of context. That's literally a quote.
Which mirrors Dewey's frustrations with his portrayal in the Woodsboro Murders book. He too supplies her with actual citations.
Page 41.
As I mentioned, the first death out of the main cast is Anika, and she's wearing the same green jacket that Randy wore when he became a Ghostface victim in the second movie. There's also another reference to Randy when they're walking through the park trying to keep Ghostface on the line, and this similarity is called out by Mindy.
This is exactly how our Uncle Randy died.
However, the person in danger here is actually Gail, who is at home. During her call with the killer, she tries to locate him by hanging up and calling back. This is also a reference to Scream 2.
Hang the phone up and star 69 is it? Damn.
The finale of each film takes place in a theater where all is revealed. At one point, Sam grabs a brick to defend herself with, which honors the method by which Sidney tried to defeat Billy's mother, crushing her with a pile of bricks. Quinn reveals herself as the final killer.
Hey, roomies. You didn't see that one coming, did you?
Actually, I did. Billy and Roman already tried faking their deaths, so it wasn't a huge surprise. More importantly, her line is almost identical to what Mickey said after the reveal of Billy's mother.
Nice twist, huh? Didn't see it coming, did ya?
Like in Scream 2, the main Ghostface is the parent of the antagonist from the previous movie out for revenge against their son's killer. The accomplice, or in this case, the accomplices, are enrolled at the university, their education being funded by the other Ghostface. In Scream 2, Sidney is saved by Cotton, someone she previously believed to be guilty. In 6, Sam and Tara are saved by Kirby, who they thought was guilty. Finally, at the end, it turns out that Chad is somehow alive and he's carried out in a stretcher with Tara running alongside. It's just like Dewey and Gail at the end of Scream 2. But there would be even more Scream 2 references in the movie theater, along with many more hidden secrets. Are you on a mission to make healthier choices this summer? Are you on a mission to quote every 2000s teen movie ever? This summer's gonna be different. This summer's gonna change our lives. If you wanna make calorie-conscious eating a breeze without compromising on taste, check out Factor. Their delicious, dietitian-approved, calorie-smart meals come with around 550 calories per serving, so you can enjoy your favorite meals guilt-free, knowing that you're staying on track with your health goals. And here's something for those of you looking to budget this month by cutting back on takeout. Why not try Factor instead? Not only is Factor more affordable than takeout, but their chef-prepared meals are ready faster than restaurant delivery in just 2 minutes. That's right, in less than the time it takes to choose a movie, your gourmet meal can be ready to eat. As you may know, I've also worked with HelloFresh, who owns Factor, and I'm a fan of both. HelloFresh for when I want to cut things, and Factor for when I'm in a hurry, which is often. As a CZsWorld viewer, you'll get a discount on both brands. Ready to make the smart choice this summer? Click the link in the description or go to factor75.com and use code CZ50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. That's factor75.com with code CZ50 for 50% off the already affordable price. This summer's gonna be different. Part of the fun of the Scream franchise and the whodunit genre in general is going back to see the clues laid out for us once we know the ending. In Tara's dialogue with Quinn at the apartment, Quinn describes how her dad held on too tight with overprotectiveness after they lost her brother. Combine that with Detective Bailey's line after Quinn's death.
Both my kids are gone. My whole family is gone.
And that's 2 oddly specific references to this mysterious dead sibling. The movie honestly could have used a few red herrings to throw us off because it was obvious that this brother was significant. Add in the fact that the first Ghostface call comes from Richie Kirsch's phone and it starts to become clear. This is the same tactic that Richie and Amber used. When a call came in from Amber's phone, everyone assumed that the killer cloned Amber's phone number when in reality all they had to do was use Amber's actual phone. Detective Bailey probably got Richie's phone back after his death and just used that. One area where the movie did successfully employ a red herring was in wardrobe. Fans know at this point that at least one Ghostface killer always has a light blue shirt or flannel. In this case, it was Ethan, and while I never really suspected Tara or Sam, we're forced to notice Danny wearing light blue when we literally see him put it on. Someone wearing a Ghostface mask attacks Sam and Tara outside their apartment, the same apartment where they were literally just with Quinn and Ethan. Later on, after Quinn's death is staged, her father comes out of the building with a little bit of a limp, maybe from an injury sustained when he's knocked to the floor by Samantha. And he's staring right at Samantha as he says this.
You f*** with my family. You die.
And when Gail gets the dreaded phone call later on, it's from a 707 area code, which represents Northern California, where Woodsboro is located. That's another clue that the killer is from that area, which Richie's family most likely would be. There's also an ominous clue that isn't related to the identity of the protagonist. Sam's psychiatrist can be seen watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which literally tells him before he becomes the next Ghostface victim. As always, it's one of many horror movie references in a Scream film. Every Scream movie makes a reference to Psycho, with the last film even containing a Psycho movie poster. That continues here with this poster in Jason's apartment. He also has a Vertigo poster, another thriller directed by Alfred Hitchcock. In addition to the first Psycho, Psycho 2 is also referenced this time.
Psycho 2 is underrated.
Psycho 2 also features a character getting stabbed through the mouth, which is exactly what Tara does to Ethan at the end. But going back to Jason, given that he's a film student and a horror fan, there are a lot of references connected to him. The reason he killed his professor in the opening sequence was because she gave him a C- on his Giallo paper. Giallo is an Italian murder mystery genre, a perfect counterpart to Scream. Jason's t-shirt says "Four Mosche di Voluto Grigio," which translates to "Four Flies on the Grey Velvet." It's a Giallo film directed by Dario Argento about a rock musician who becomes entangled in a gruesome murder case. Interestingly, Jason also has an Ice Nine Kills magnet on his fridge. Ice Nine Kills is a metal band known for theming their songs around horror movies. Their 2018 album, The Silver Scream, has a series of accompanying music videos with a narrative throughline about a series of deaths connected to the band's frontman, Spencer Charnas. So kind of similar to Four Flies on the Grey Velvet. Ice Nine Kills also did a deluxe version of The Silver Scream, which, appropriately, contains a song about Scream. And no, it was not lost on me that Jason gets home and turns on a Friday the 13th movie. His full name is Jason Carvey, and Jason Voorhees, the antagonist of the Friday the 13th franchise, likes to carve up his victims. This isn't just any Friday the 13th movie though, it's Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, the one where he goes to New York, much like how Scream 6 is set in New York. Jason is not the only new character who seems to be a horror fan. Sam's psychiatrist has some merch in his office. On the desk, you can spot a lineup of horror dolls, including Gomez, Pugsley, and Fester Adams, as well as Leatherface. Above the fireplace, there's also a Leatherface doll and a Ghostface doll. The defunct movie theater marquee is advertising 2 events. On the left, it says Jennifer Jolie Retrospective. Jennifer Jolie was the name of the actress who played Gail Weathers in Stab 3. On the right, it says Rocky Horror Picture Show, which connects to this guy dressed up as Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror on the subway. Which brings me to the next section, the costumes. It's always been a pet peeve of mine in movies that take place around Halloween when everyone is dressed in generic costumes like vampire, pirate, nurse, etc. Because in real life, most people are dressed up as something specific, usually some kind of pop culture thing. I was glad to see Scream finally do this right, and some of the costumes have a deeper meaning. Like at the Omega Kappa Beta party, where we see a girl dressed as Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. Since the release of Scream 2022, the star, Jenna Ortega, portrayed this character in a popular adaptation known as Wednesday. Is the Recycling Wednesday flyer on her fridge related to this as well? Probably not. Other party guests include someone in a striped Ghostface mask hanging with Dwight Schrute from The Office. There's also a girl in the crowd wearing a number 10 jersey, a reference to the top that Tatum wears in the first Scream, which is a reference to what Glenn Lance wore in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Then we've got Harry Potter, Alan from The Hangover, and Mindy Meeks, who is dressed as Stormé DeLarverie, a woman known for her part in a lesbian movement in the 1960s. That's kind of her whole entire gimmick in this movie. She's constantly advertising her homosexuality. There are even more costumes in the subway scene. First, there's Grace from the 2019 movie Ready or Not, which is directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, just like this movie. There's a David Bowie in the crowd and a Michael Myers from the Halloween franchise, which is significant because of how the Scream franchise is a satire primarily of the Halloween franchise. In fact, when they arrive at the train station, you can hear people chanting "Evil Dies Tonight,"
less scary, serial killer movie,
which is the mantra from Halloween Kills, the sequel to the requel, just like how Scream 6 is a sequel to a requel. The Statue of Liberty makes an appearance, makes sense, it's New York. This is Mojo Jojo, the main villain from the Powerpuff Girls. Nice to see Scream staying in touch with its 90s roots. It's not really a costume, but this guy has a Fangoria shirt, Fangoria being the famous horror magazine. On the train, there's someone dressed as the Babadook, which Tara cited as her favorite movie in the 5th Scream.
What's your favorite scary movie?
The Babadook.
Other than Ghostface, the train contains a variety of other slasher icons, like Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, Jason from Friday the 13th, and Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, this wasn't Freddy's first rodeo in a Scream movie. There's also someone dressed as Chucky from Child's Play, which was referenced in Scream 2022 as an example of a horror movie that was remade. That scene also talks about elevated horror.
What's wrong with elevated horror? I mean, Jordan Peele fucking rules.
So some of the costumes in the subway are from the elevated horror era, like Pluto from Jordan Peele's Us, as well as several of the other tethered characters from that movie. There's also a chick dressed as Danny Ardor, aka the May Queen from Midsommar. Right after that, there's a quick flash cameo from Tyler Gillett, the co-director, before we move on to some Stephen King references, including the Grady twins from The Shining and Georgie Denbrough from It. Other horror references include Melanie Daniels from The Birds, complete with Bird, Horace Pinker from Wes Craven's Shocker, Kayako Seiki from The Grudge, and Billy the Puppet from Saw, which was mentioned in Scree form.
Did you pick a movie?
Yeah.
We're gonna go scary. Saw 4.
It seems there are also other pop culture references on the train, like Tyler Durden from Fight Club, and I didn't know what this was, so I tried Googling hand around a neck costume, and apparently this was just an Oscars dress from Julia Fox, an actress from the movie Uncut Gems. There's one glaring hole in the train scene. They're trying to safely travel from the Upper West Side to the movie theater. Everyone is in costume around them, so why don't they just get costumes to evade Ghostface? There are many hidden details in the costumes, and there may even be some that I didn't recognize, so let me know what you saw in the comments. But there are even more secrets in the form of hidden Wes Craven homages, Scream Easter eggs, and other things you might have missed. If you follow my channel, you know I am very concerned with movie timeline accuracy. I have a series called Horror History, which is half character analysis and half timeline construction. So I can be the first to say that these last two Scream movies have screwed up the timeline. At the end of the fifth Scream, the reporter claims that the original Woodsboro Massacre was 25 years ago, almost to the day. The original was set in 1996, so that would mean that it was set in 2021. However, Sam and Mindy both claim that the most recent stab came out last year, and we can clearly see that was 2021, meaning that the fifth Scream is actually set in 2022, which seems to be backed up in Scream 6. The Woodsboro Truther subreddit refers to the most recent events in Woodsboro as the 2022 Woodsboro Massacre, and Kirby's timeline of events says 2022 was the year of Richie and Amber's death. However, this board also claims that Roman's death was in 2000, which is incorrect. In Scream 3, Roman died in 1999. The production designers obviously just use the release dates of the movies rather than when they are set. But Kirby specifically says that Richie and Amber died last year, so we can probably just go with the fifth Scream taking place in 2022 and the sixth Scream taking place in 2023, right? Well, when we see the film professor's phone at the beginning of the movie, it says Saturday, October 29th, which would put this in 2022. Other phone screens also corroborate this. Sam's driver's license is 2 days away from expiration, although you could argue that she's not planning on renewing it because you don't need a car in New York. And the subway map says service suspended through September 2022. Why would that still be up over a year later? But on the other hand, the newscaster in Scream 6 very clearly refers to Sam as
one of the survivors of the Woodsboro killings in 2022.
So I think there's more evidence now that Scream 2022 does in fact take place in 2022, and Scream 6 takes place 13 months later in 2023. This board also confirms that the Scream TV show is a separate canon entirely, which I'm very much fine with. Look, if anyone knows the people that work on these movies, can you please just send them my channel so they can stop screwing up their own franchise? I usually try to find a reason to make the mistakes work by saying things like, this character was just estimating the date, but there are only so many excuses I can make for you.
Roman Bridger was the only single ghost face. Kudos to him for ambition.
That's debatable.
It's extremely debatable.
See my Scream 3 Things You Missed episode for details, but not until after you've seen all the Wes Craven references here in Scream 6. As you know, Wes Craven was the legendary horror director who brought us everything from Last House on the Left, to The Hills Have Eyes, to A Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course, the first 4 Screams. In Jason's apartment, he has up a poster for Last Podcast on the Left, a clear play on Last House on the Left. That film was released in 1972, and in the establishing shots at the beginning of the movie, we see West 72nd Street. It appears that all of the East-West streets in Upper Manhattan corresponds to Wes Craven release dates. The characters board a train at 94th and 93rd, which corresponds to New Nightmare and Body Bags respectively. Gail's apartment is located between 96th and 97th. Scream came out in 1996, and Scream 2 came out in 1997. One of the posts in the Woodsboro Truther subreddit comes from a user named 234mimi23. Mimi Craven was Wes Craven's wife for a short time in the 80s. She appeared in A Nightmare on Elm Street and Swamp Thing. Jason and Greg's apartment building is called Elm Court, a reference to A Nightmare on Elm Street. When we see Sam's driver's license, her address is 2419 Solar Drive, Modesto, California. However, this address is not in Modesto, it's in Los Angeles, and it once belonged to Wes Craven. This next one is one of the weirdest ever. At the end of the convenience store scene, we see the exterior of the store, and it's called Abe Snake Bodega. When I'm making these videos and I see a brand name that I don't recognize, I always look it up to find out if there's some significance. So that's what I did, and I found this Slash Film article, which contains some odd trivia. It explains that one of Craven's friends got involved in producing adult films in the 70s, and he decided to try making one himself. In 1975, in between The Last House and 1977's The Hills Have Eyes, Craven made The Fireworks Woman, also known as Angela the Fireworks Woman, using a spectacular pseudonym, Abe Snake. And just like Angela was packed with fireworks, Scream 6 is packed with Easter eggs referencing the rest of the Scream franchise. If you look closely at the Woodsboro Truther subreddit, which by the way, the URL is www.r/WoodsboroTruther, pretty sure that's not how URLs work, but you'll notice that the sub was created 1/14/2022. This contradicts the timeline, again, but at least this one is obviously just an Easter egg. It's technically the theatrical release date of Scream 2022 seen on posters, even though the premiere was cancelled. Another Reddit post advertises 261 Turner Lane Part 2, the all-new true story. This is essentially a story about the last movie's events, because 261 Turner Lane is the address of the house once occupied by Stu Macher and his family, before being the host of Amber Freeman and her family.
I'm at Stu Macher's house on Turner Lane. It's 261 Turner Lane.
Despite leaving Woodsboro, some of the characters still seem to have pride about their old town. Chad hangs on to his Letterman jacket, and Mindy wears a panther patch on hers, the mascot of Woodsboro High. One of the defining characteristics of a requel is rehashing existing scenes, and Scream 6 is no exception. Sam and Tara visit the police station following their convenience store encounter, where they're told that they can't leave town by the detective. In the fourth Scream, Dewey and Judy have to tell Sidney the same thing. Another Sidney parallel can be seen as they're leaving, and the media swarm around them, just like when they mobbed Sidney Prescott in 1996 outside of the Woodsboro police station. And the same music plays as well. Eventually, Kirby shows up, now a member of the FBI, and she and Mindy test each other on horror movie knowledge.
Best Nightmare on Elm Street.
The original.
This is a reference to the original Scream, where Casey Becker has similar taste.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy, that's right. I like that movie. It was scary.
Wow, well, the first one was, but the rest sucked.
Or maybe just common sense. Then there's Gail. During the part where she's talking with Sam about the importance of family, we hear Dewey's theme in the background, suggesting that Gail never stopped caring about him. This is also evident because she has the same photo of her and Dewey that we first saw in Dewey's trailer in the fifth one. She almost ended up joining him after an ambush by Quinn. At one point, she fires 2 shots through the door and says,
"How's that for nostalgia, fucker?"
referring to when she played Hero by shooting Billy Loomis way back in the original. But it wasn't just the dialogue that was nostalgic, because the movie theater shrine is packed with background details spanning the entire franchise. Before heading into the theater for the final showdown, Sam splits off from her new love interest, Danny, for safety reasons.
We don't know you. Not really.
She says this in almost the exact same way as her old love interest, Richie, spoke about the Stab franchise.
No one has made a great stab movie since the first one. Not really.
From this point on, there's a lot of familiar line delivery.
I've always wanted to stick something in you, Tara. I always had a thing for you, Sid.
The movie theater shrine is a goldmine for things you missed, akin to Eleanor's studio from Jigsaw. I'll start with the first Scream and work my way forward. This is the outfit Tatum Riley wore on her final night. This is Stu Macher's robe from the night of his party, and here's Billy Loomis's shirt from that same evening. The black jacket and backwards hat belong to Kenny, Gail's cameraman for Top Story with Gail Weathers. It's more obvious when you see the back of his Top Story jacket. This mannequin represents Stephen Orth, Casey's boyfriend and the franchise's first on-screen kill. Here, we have the Ghostface mask that Principal Himbry confiscated from the pranksters at the school and cut up, and these are the scissors he used to do it.
2 of your fellow students just savagely murdered, and this is the way that you show your compassion and sensitivity, huh? Let me show you something. You're both expelled. Get it.
You know, I wonder if they just showed up at school the next day. It's not like Himbry had time to tell anyone that he expelled them. On top of the mask is the rope that Himbry swung from, next to a sketch of where he was found on the football field and his obituaries. This is an employee shirt from Bradley Video Store, the store that Randy worked at in the first movie. I'm not positive why this is here, because as far as we know, nobody died at the video store, but I guess it's possible that it was still a scene in the movie adaptation of Stab. Rounding out the first movie, we have the Woodsboro High School flag. Scream 2 opens with the Stab movie premiere, and there's a lot of memorabilia from that. We see the costumes, masks, and plastic knives that were handed out to patrons in attendance at the premiere, as well as a few movie tickets. In the corner is the giant Ghostface head that decorated the production office in Scream 3. This sketch depicts Sidney at various points in Scream 2, on stage, in the government car, and at the library. It's above a Windsor College sweater, the setting of Scream 2. I believe the camera that Chad picks up and throws at Ghostface is Joel's camera during his gig with Up to Date. This big old set piece along the side of the theater is the thing that Derek was tied to at the end of Scream 2, and at some point, we can even see the Agamemnon mask that he was wearing when he was lowered onto the stage. There's also another mask from that play right here. There's also a glimpse of the white blazer that Debbie Salt / Nancy Loomis was wearing during the finale, and I believe this is the gun that she used during that scene. Scream 3 is all about the production of the third Stab movie being terrorized by a new threat. Above the Stab 3 script is the slate used during filming. However, as an Easter egg, the cinematographer is listed as Brett Jukowitz, the cinematographer of Scream 2022 and Scream 6. I spotted a sketch of Sarah Darling, the first Scream 3 victim, and Jennifer Jolie, the actress who played Gail. Also visible here is the killer's voice changer in Gun. Scream 3 had a special voice changer that allowed the user to imitate anyone's voice. Kinda funny that we've only just recently unlocked that technology today, and it's being used to make politicians bicker over video games. In this case, there's a melted phone, a frying pan, and a lighter. The frying pan is the one that the killer used to knock out the security guard Stephen Stone. There's another frying pan attack in this movie, when Gail uses it against Quinn. I wonder if that one will make the next museum. The phone is Jennifer Jolie's phone, damaged when her house exploded, and the lighter must have been Tom Prince's lighter, which was responsible for causing that explosion. Overhead is the banner that says "Happy Birthday Roman," which was displayed over the entryway of John Milton's manor when Sidney arrived. It was not a happy birthday for Roman. Screeform! By the time this one rolled around, several more Stab films had been made. These posters for Stabs 3, 4, and 5 are all in Scree form, but this is the first time we've ever seen the Stab 4 poster, or should I say the Staforb poster, unobstructed. There are also sketches of the two killers, Charlie and Jill, as well as the shirt that Charlie was wearing when he died, and the flannel that Jill had on before being taken to the hospital and changed into a hospital gown. There's a moment where we see Kirby looking at it with tears in her eyes, remembering the way that her best friend betrayed her and tried to have her killed. And we also see the knife that Charlie stabbed her with and the residue on the patio where Kirby was tied up. In the back here, you'll see the outfit worn by Jill's ex-boyfriend, Trevor, when he died. It could also potentially be Neil Prescott's outfit from Scream 1, which looks the same, but since Neil never died, I'm guessing he got to keep his clothes. I see no reason they would have ended up in police custody. This one was the hardest to place. My first thought was that it was supposed to be Casey Becker, because nobody else died in a white long sleeve, but it doesn't match, and she wasn't wearing shorts. My guess is that it's actually supposed to be Jill's neighbor, Olivia Morris, who was taken down while wearing a gray long sleeve and flannel shorts. It's not a perfect match, but it's my best guess. There's also a Woodsboro police uniform, meaning that this belonged to Deputy Haas or Deputy Perkins, the two cops who fell in the line of duty while parked outside of Jill's house. And we have a Stabathon t-shirt. Stabathon was the movie marathon event hosted by the Woodsboro High Film Club where Gail Weathers was nearly butchered. In addition to those, there's also a case full of Gail's books, most of which we've seen before in Scream 3 and 4, with one notable addition. The Gail Weathers book that we haven't seen before is Stabbed in the Back, The Real Sunrise Story. This actually comes from one of the promotional websites for Scream 3, Sunrise Sucks. This was an anonymous expose site that published dirt about the production company responsible for the Stab franchise, Sunrise Studios. I talked about it extensively in my horror history episode on the history of the Stab IP. By the way, in Gail's apartment, there's one new book called The Woodsboro Horror Continues, which must be the one she wrote about the 2022, or whenever it took place, Woodsboro Massacre. All of these theater shrine items were part of Richie Kirsch's collection, despite the fact that he claims that the first Stab movie is the only good one. He dies in Scream 2022, so it makes sense that there wouldn't be much from that movie. However, I did notice the Stab Blu-ray box set, which was released at some point between Screams 4 and 5. If there's one thing you can usually count on in a requel, it's the new characters taking up the mantle of the legacy characters. In the case of Scream, Sam Carpenter is the new Sidney Prescott, and she puts on the Ghostface costume to fight back against Detective Bailey at the end of the movie. It's the very same Ghostface costume that Sidney wore to strike back against Billy Loomis approximately 27 years earlier. And just like Billy, Bailey finds himself on the wrong end of a Ghostface call from his prey.
Hello, Detective Bailey. Are you alone in the house?
Bailey is not the only one to suffer a very 1996 fate. Ethan pops up in the final reel for one last scare and gets crushed by the same TV that fell upon Stu Macher. So what's the message this time? What are the filmmakers trying to tell us? Well, it's not that different from the last movie. This is kind of the second one in a row that condemns toxic internet culture. This time, instead of toxic fandom, it's about the phenomenon of Reddit detectives who try to solve crimes on their own and usually just end up making things worse. Wavy Web Surf has a really good video on the topic if you want to learn more. Throughout the movie, Sam has to deal with accusations that she was actually the killer in Woodsboro. Like this guy, who refers to her as being that psycho girl. He looks like he could be an actual Redditor. Another chick recognizes her, dumps Diet Cherry Coke on her, and calls her a murderer. Why would you dump a beverage on someone if you believe she was a murderer? That is not a smart move. Even her psychiatrist starts to get creeped out by her. If you're like me, you probably wanted to go back and look at the names in the psychiatrist's filing cabinet to see if there were any Easter eggs. As far as I can tell, these are just random patient names with no deeper meaning. But Mars Jupiter is definitely a weird one. Perhaps the biggest twist with this movie is that none of the core characters died. It looked like Chad was a goner there for a minute, but he miraculously makes it out on a stretcher at the end. Although, during that part where Tara takes off his oxygen mask to kiss him, I wish he just would have died right there. It would have been so fucking funny. Click the playlist on the left for more of my Scream franchise analysis videos. And if you want to see everything you might have missed in the upcoming Scream 7, then make sure you subscribe to CZsWorld for new horrors every week, ring the death bell for all notifications, and I will see you in the next one. Assuming we both survive.